The parade had already begun. Brass instruments blared, children waved their tiny flags, and red, white, blue confetti floated like snow over Main Street. No one noticed the old man sitting alone on the rusted bench near the edge of the crowd. His back was straight, his uniform pressed, but his hands trembled. People passed by without a second glance. Some even blocked his view with foldable chairs and umbrellas. A teenager walked so close that his backpack knocked the old man's cane to the ground. The boy didn't turn around, and the old veteran said nothing. He just bent slowly to retrieve his cane, the gesture stiff with age, and something deeper. Something heavier. The woman nearby leaned over to whisper to her friend, "Why's he even dressed like that? This parade's for the active military." The words hung in the air like smoke. No one corrected her that he sat through it all, still, silent, alone, just a wrinkled shadow in the crowd. His hat bore the faded insignia of the 1st Marine Division. His jacket clung to him like an old oath. Pinned above his heart were 3 ribbons, sun-faded but unmistakable, a purple heart, a silver star, and a Navy cross, but not a single soul seemed to see them. Not until the Marines marched in. Their boots hit pavement in perfect rhythm, row after row, young, strong, polished, the pride of a nation. The crowd cheered louder. Children stood on tiptoes. Phones flew into the air to capture the glory. No one noticed when the front row suddenly stopped. Right in front of the old man, one by one, the Marines broke formation. They turned, not to the crowd, but to him. The old man didn't look up at first. Not until a young Marine, barely older than 20, stepped forward, snapped to attention, and saluted. The veteran blinked. Once, slowly. Then another Marine saluted. Then another. And another. 47 Marines stood shoulder to shoulder on the hot asphalt, not moving, not speaking, saluting one man who had been invisible just minutes earlier. People began to quiet down. Even the children stopped cheering, and for the first time that day, all eyes turned to him. His name was Staff Sergeant Edward "Red" Lawson. Served in Korea and Vietnam. Lost most of his unit in a river ambush in '68. He was the only one who made it out. Carried 2 of his wounded men 5 miles through the jungle while bleeding from his own gut. But none of that was in the program. There was no plaque, no announcer reading his name. Just a man in a wrinkled uniform who hadn't missed a single parade in 30 years. That he came every year. Sat in the same spot. Said nothing. Expected nothing. Today, he almost hadn't come. His wife passed 6 months ago. Since then, the silence at home had become unbearable. That he wasn't looking for attention. He was looking for memory, for meaning, for the ghosts who still marched with him. And somehow, these 47 Marines had seen that. Felt that. A whisper broke through the silence, from a man in the crowd, barely audible, yet it traveled like gospel. "That's Red Lawson. My father told me about him. Called him the bravest man he ever met." The crowd began to rise. Hats came off. Hands covered hearts. 1. Little girl stepped away from her parents and placed a single white rose in the veteran's lap. Red's hands, still trembling, closed gently around it. And finally, he looked up, not with pride, but with tears. There were no speeches, no headlines, just silence and honor. "Real heroes don't speak loudly," one Marine later said. "They carry nations on their backs, then sit quietly while the world forgets." As the parade resumed, the Marines marched on, but something had changed. Not in them, in the way strangers now looked at Red Lawson. In the way respect returned to a street where silence had once ruled. And long after the music faded and the crowd cleared, Red stayed on that bench, holding that rose, surrounded by the quiet that, for once, no longer felt so lonely. If this story moved you, let us know where you're watching from. Subscribe to hear more untold stories that remind us all, some heroes don't wear capes, they wear silence.